Google converts all of YouTube to WebM, any of the other video sites will have reasons to do the same, to support OGG or WebM or something like that. Because otherwise they basically offer less than Google does. And so the future looks bright eventually for HTML5. Lots of people are very pessimistic about it, and they thought, oh, we'll never catch on. It's just those geeks who care about awesome hate buttons. But here, it's happening. YouTube is like this, over 70% of the videos that people actually watch on the web, and that's going to be all WebM. So if you have a browser that's just a free software browser, it will put all the code from Google, the WebM code, inside of it. And the next versions will just work with YouTube without any plugins, without even Ganesh.
Well, just very quickly, sticking on the subject of Linux gaming, Pioneer, a game I've spoken about quite a few times. It's still in development, but it's a rather exciting project. There'll be a link on the show notes. It's I don't want to use the word emulation because that would slightly shouldn't it. It's a take on the original Elite 2 Frontier game, which came out on the 16-bit machines many years ago. It was a fantastic open world space trading piracy in the proper pirate sense, I hasten to add, game, and it's currently in Alpha 10. Alpha 10 was released on May the 13th. Just yesterday, I believe, and the project is coming along really, really well. It's taken the old Frontier game and it's put a modern-ish twist on it, taking into account of the higher specs of the more modern PCs, and it looks really, really good. And for any aging gaming fans like myself who got into the Elite series, it's a great bit of nostalgia, and it'll certainly bring a tear to your eye. So it's a project I recommend you keep your eye on. It's a project that I would ask you if you can help in any way to the team, obviously offer your services. So, because I would really like to see this particular project come to fruition. I think it'll also bring a whole new generation of fans to the franchise, for want of a better word, of the Elite gaming series. And I think I've covered the topic of David Braben, who was one of the original programmers to the Elite game from many years ago. So it's an exciting project. I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. And the link to this Pioneer game will be on the show notes, so get yourself over there and have a little look. It's available for Linux, Mac, and Windows, so there's no excuse. And have a look, see what you think. Right, Roy, have you got any other topics that you would like to cover before we
mention something very fast?
Go for it.
This isn't something I've verified to ensure the facts were correct as they were given to me in IRC, but since you mentioned game development, do you know the game? I think it's called Busy Flag. It's the one with tanks and stuff. I think you actually did a review of the game at some stage.
Yes, I believe I did cover that. It was an FPS where you were at some sort of tank, and I believe, yes, I have covered that in the past.
Yeah.
Zero Ballistics, was it called?
Maybe.
Yeah, that was. I'm sure it's Zero Ballistics, the one I covered many months ago.
Could be ZB flag or something. You have to capture the flag or something.
I don't think so, but go on. Yeah.
Yeah. So this game that I was told about, which I knew it by name, but I don't really play many games in Linux. I've played a few before, but I'm trying to avoid it. It's very addictive. Let me just take it with a grain of salt, because I haven't verified to check if this is true. The person told me that the developers were asking about possibility of starting to do coding in C#. And of course, it's supposed to be cross-platform and everything, so you kind of think, no. And then I asked him to check the date on the post to actually make sure they didn't say this after Mono was essentially axed, in terms of the payments from Novell. The project is unfunded now. It's basically orphaned. So it turned out it was just about a day or two before the news about Mono came out. So he hasn't actually seen anything since then. So I kind of hope they lost they lost interest in fact doing anything to do with C# to code, to code more for this game. Maybe they wanted to just support the game, but I can't remember the details.
Well, I've just checked with my site, and it was Zero Ballistics I reviewed, but happily you've given me a good reason to promote that game again, and I will be putting a link in the show notes. The game was thinking of was a first-person shooter, which was some sort of futuristic tank type thing. Really great multiplayer game, fantastic. And there'll be a link in the show notes. It's free, obviously, and you can get yourself a copy completely legally. And you can download it from the link I'll give you on my site. So I'll stick that on because it is a really good game. I've forgotten about that one. I should really have another little go at that, have another look, because I'm sure they'll have improved it since the last version. But yeah, sorry, Roy.
Speaking of legal downloads, I understand you might be doing something illegal because you're downloading a lot of stuff right now. Don't you? No, we were having this joke before. Basically, lots of people actually download things very ethically and legally in general. But the assumption made by Hollywood, or I think ISPs increasingly adopt the same assumption. It's convenient to them because they have to pay for things like bandwidth, is that any person who uses torrent is just doing something illegal. Now, of course, I'll try in every show now. I'll give links to the torrents of the source of the music that what I personally use in the show. I think Tim's got a different source. He's mostly using sites where, yeah, that's the one. But the one I'm going to close the show with is it's one track from the same one as before. In fact, I'll give a link to the torrent.
Sorry, Roy. Before you go, I didn't get a chance to add my little.
Sure.
Sorry. For everybody listening, sorry about a slight interruption. There was a small segment at the end which I wanted to throw in regards to the illegal use of BitTorrent, and it's just very quick, and it's something that I would like to mention. BitTorrent is a fantastic protocol, and I don't need to go into detail as to why, and we've covered it many times on the show before, and of course, anybody who says the word BitTorrent is instantly a pirate. And as Roy was saying, yes, I'm doing something terribly illegal at the moment, and I'm downloading a series. And it's a series which I've spoken about before, and it's called Pioneer 1. Now, obviously, when I say illegal, I jest, because Pioneer 1 is released under a Creative Commons license, and it's completely free to download, and you can get it yourself, and the link will be in the show notes. Now, I've covered this series a few times on the show because the production quality and the storyline is something that I would expect to see on a mainstream television channel. It's not what people might imagine to be a cheap, budget-driven, amateur-type affair. It's a very, very decent storyline. I'm not going to tell you what it's about because that'll sort of ruin the drama that's going on. But suffice to say, it's science fiction. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm currently downloading episode 4, I think, at the moment, and doing my bit to share it with other people in the community. And I recommend you follow the link on the show notes, get yourself over and get yourself a copy. And on that note, I shall now pass it back to Roy and just say thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Roy, for coming on and chatting tonight, because I know you had quite a few things planned for this evening. And with that in mind, Roy's going to introduce the last track, and we'll finish the show there.
Yes. Well, one small thing I wanted to add, and I apologize for closing the show too early. You mentioned something about films being distributed for free, and I know lots of films do that, especially when they're small and they really need the support of ISPs to actually advance themselves. And I have a friend of mine named Jim, who is a film director here in Manchester, and he's been trying to use YouTube to basically give some promotion to his films, which he got some good funding basically to produce before. And I was talking to him about torrents too, and basically how to get it out to the masses. I mean, some of the things we have are things like film festivals and actually the source of the songs that we have, and we will probably have in future shows, and hopefully maybe hundreds of tracks over time. This is a sort of a festival as well, where they have musicians and people who aren't exactly on labels, like, Britney Spears and Lady Gaga or whatever. So they don't really get the same exposure. They don't get posters in the streets. They don't really get the big studios and the promotions and the they don't really get the same chance. Even though most of them are extremely talented, and they come from all over the world too. So for example, in the next track we're going to play is from a Japanese artist who probably traveled to the States and tried to promote the music there. If you put on something like MTV, American television, you probably won't be seeing Japanese pop or anything like that. Simply because it's just not. I think it's to do with the fact that the companies that own the TV channels have some overlap with the companies that own certain